The observation deck of Sentinel Station Alpha 7 offered the finest view in the Keldari system. Commander Xeraxian stood with his forearms clasped behind his back, gazing out at the vast starscape beyond the reinforced transparent steel. His scaled skin reflected the soft blue glow of the station's interior lighting. For 300 cycles, he had served as the warden of this quarantined system, ensuring nothing entered or left without the Galactic Concordat's approval. The Keldari system was a prize the Concordat had claimed centuries ago. 7 planets rich with rare minerals, habitable worlds, and ancient technology left by some long-vanished species. But more importantly, it served as a buffer zone between the civilized galaxy and the troublesome yellow star designated Sol 3, home to a primitive but unsettlingly aggressive species called humans. "Commander, we have a situation," said Lieutenant Metraxi, her tentacle appendages rapidly tapping on the holographic console. Her voice carried the distinctive whistling tone of the Fraxian species. Xeraxian turned, his secondary eyelids blinking in sequence. "Report. Unidentified vessel at the edge of the system. Sir, it just appeared. No warp signature, no fold space ripple, nothing on our sensors until it was already there." "Show me." The main view screen flickered to life, displaying a sleek, gunmetal gray vessel with subtle blue running lights along its hull. Unlike the organic curves and symmetry favored by most Concordat species, this ship had harsh angles and asymmetrical weapon ports. Xeraxian felt his scales tighten against his body, an ancient fear response his species had evolved millennia ago. "Magnify," he ordered. The image zoomed in, revealing markings on the hull. "UNSDFIANC. That's impossible," Xeraxian whispered. "Humans don't have interstellar capability. Their quarantine is still in effect for another 50 cycles." "Sir, they're hailing us," Metraxi said, her voice trembling slightly. Xeraxian straightened his uniform. On screen. "Alert Concordat High Command immediately." The view screen shifted to show a human female. Her skin was a rich brown, hair pulled back tightly from her face, and eyes that seemed almost golden in the light of her ship's bridge. She wore a dark blue uniform with silver insignia at the collar, nothing like the primitive military garb Concordat intelligence had reported humans wearing. "This is Captain Ilara Reese of the United Nations ship Defiance. We request permission to proceed to Keldari Prime on a diplomatic mission." Xeraxian maintained his composure despite his shock. "Captain Reese, this is Commander Xeraxian of the Galactic Concordat. Your presence in this system violates multiple interstellar treaties, including the Sol Quarantine Directive. Your species is not permitted to leave your home system for another 53 standard cycles." Captain Reese's expression remained neutral, but something flashed in those golden eyes. "Commander, we're well aware of the quarantine. We also know it's illegal under galactic common law to imprison a species that hasn't committed any crime against the galactic community. Your species' aggressive tendencies and history of internal warfare was deemed sufficient cause by a council on which we had no representation," she interrupted. "But that's a debate for another time. We have an invitation from Governor Tilaxu of Keldari Prime to discuss trade opportunities." Xeraxian's secondary heart skipped a beat. Governor Tilaxu was inviting quarantined species into Concordat space. That was high treason. "Captain, I must insist you power down your engines and prepare for boarding. Your ship will be impounded, and your crew will be detained until this matter is resolved." Captain Reese smiled slightly. "I'm afraid that won't be possible, Commander. We have diplomatic immunity under Article 7 of the Galactic Charter. Any attempt to board this vessel will be considered an act of war against Earth. You dare threaten the Concordat, your single ship against our fleet." Xeraxian felt his temper rising, his scales flushing with heat. "Who said we came alone?" On cue, the station's alarms began blaring. Lieutenant Metraxi's eyes widened in panic. "Commander, multiple ships decloaking throughout the system. 20. No, 30 vessels of unknown configuration. The view screen split to show the sensor readings. Ships of various sizes had appeared throughout the Keldari system, all bearing similar design aesthetics to the Defiance. Some were positioned near strategic Concordat installations, others near the jump gates. "This is Admiral Helena Zhang of the Earth Defense Fleet," came a new voice as another human appeared on a portion of the screen. This one was older, with silver hair and eyes that seemed to have seen too much. "Our ships are on a peaceful mission, but we are prepared to defend ourselves if necessary." Syraxian felt the command deck tilt beneath him. This couldn't be happening. Humans were primitive, barely capable of reaching their own moon. Their technology was centuries behind the Concordat. Their quarantine was supposed to ensure they never became a threat. How? He finally managed to ask. "How did you achieve this level of technology?" "Our reports were exactly what we wanted you to see," Captain Reese said. "The Concordat has been watching Earth for centuries, but did you really think we wouldn't notice? Your observation probes weren't as subtle as you believed. We've been aware of the galactic community for over 50 years, Admiral Zhang added, and we've been preparing accordingly." Syraxian's mind raced. 50 years. That would coincide with the Proxima incident, when a Concordat observation ship malfunctioned and nearly crashed on the human homeworld. The ship had self-destructed before impact, and the official report stated no evidence had been left behind. Clearly, that assessment had been catastrophically wrong. "What are your intentions?" Syraxian asked, trying to regain his diplomatic composure. "As I said, we're here on a peaceful diplomatic mission," Captain Reese replied. "Governor Tlaxu reached out to Earth 6 months ago. He believes the quarantine is unjust and that both our peoples could benefit from trade and cultural exchange." Lieutenant Metraxi whispered urgently, "Sir, Concordat High Command is responding. Grand Admiral Zendraxis will be arriving with the 7th Fleet in 6 hours. Slightly. He needed to stall. "Captain Reese, I propose a compromise. Your ship, and only your ship, may proceed to Keldari Prime under escort. The rest of your fleet must remain at the system's edge until this diplomatic situation is resolved." Reese and Zhang appeared to confer off-screen for a moment before Reese responded. "Agreed, with one condition. If any Concordat vessel takes hostile action against any Earth ship, our entire fleet will respond. Is that understood?" "Perfectly, Captain." Syraxian managed a formal bow. "I will assign an escort for you immediately." When the communication ended, Syraxian turned to his lieutenant. "Tell me everything about Governor Tlaxu's recent communications and activities, and prepare my personal shuttle. I'll be escorting the human vessel myself." "Is that wise, sir?" Metraxi asked. "No," Syraxian admitted. "But I want to see these humans up close. Something isn't right about any of this." Captain Ilara Reese stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching as the Concordat escort vessel approached. Her first officer, Commander Sanjay Patel, stood at her side. "They're terrified," Patel observed quietly. "Did you see the commander's scales?" Classic Phyrexian fear response. "Can you blame them?" Reese replied. "As far as they knew, we were still fighting wars with projectile weapons and burning fossil fuels. Now we show up with a fleet of ships using technology they thought was centuries beyond us." The look on his face when we decloaked the fleet, Patel allowed himself a small smile. "Don't get cocky," Reese warned. "The Concordat didn't become the dominant power in this sector by being stupid. They're calling in reinforcements as we speak." The ship's AI, Araya, manifested as a blue hologram near the command chair. "Captain, I've analyzed Commander Syraxian's communication patterns during our exchange." He was deliberately stalling. "My prediction is that Concordat reinforcements have already been summoned." As expected, Reese nodded. "Admiral Zhang knows the plan. If things go sideways, the fleet will create a diversion while we complete the mission." "And what exactly is our mission, Captain?" asked Patel. "The crew knows we're meeting with Governor Tlaxu, but what aren't you telling us?" Reese studied her first officer for a long moment. They'd served together for 7 years, through the Mars Crisis and the Jupiter campaign against separatist factions. If anyone deserved the truth, it was Patel. The governor didn't just reach out for trade discussions, she said quietly. He's offering to defect. Patel's eyes widened. A Concordat governor, defecting to Earth. It's more complicated than that. Tlaxu claims to represent a faction within the Concordat who believe the old ways are failing. They call themselves the Ascended Path. Religious nutjobs? Patel asked skeptically. No, more like reformers. They believe the Concordat's policy of quarantining aggressive species is short-sighted. According to Tlaxu, there's something coming, something the Concordat has known about but kept hidden from most of its citizens, something they can't face alone. Before Patel could respond, ARIA interrupted. Captain, Commander Suraction's shuttle is approaching. He's requesting permission to board rather than providing a remote escort. Reese raised an eyebrow. Interesting. He wants to see the bougie man up close. Do we allow it? Patel asked. Absolutely. Have Lieutenant Commander Chen meet him in the shuttle bay with an honor guard. Full diplomatic protocol. And security. Discreet, but present. I want AM scanners checking for anything unusual. And Sanjay, she added as her first officer turned to leave, have Dr. Okafor on standby. If our guest has any unexpected reactions to human biology, I want her ready. Commander Suraction had boarded many alien vessels during his 3 centuries of service to the Concordat. Each species built their ships to reflect their own biology and psychology. The hive mind Trixians with their honeycomb corridors, the aquatic Marilusi with their water-filled passageways. He'd expected the human ship to be chaotic, disorganized, reflecting their fractious nature. Instead, the UNS Defiance was a study in efficient design. The corridors were straight and logically laid out. The lighting was bright but not harsh. The air circulation was perfect. Everything spoke of a methodical, disciplined approach to spacefaring that contradicted everything Concordat intelligence had suggested about humans. The human female who had greeted him, Lieutenant Commander Chen, she called herself, was escorting him to the bridge. 2 other humans walked behind them, ostensibly as honor guards but obviously security. Your ship is impressive, Suraction said, trying to gather information. The technology seems advanced for your species' development stage. Chen smiled politely. The Concordat's intelligence on Earth is outdated, Commander. We've made significant technological leaps in recent decades. I see that. May I ask how you achieved faster-than-light travel? Our reports indicated you were at least a century away from such discoveries. I'm not a physicist, Commander, but my understanding is that we don't use traditional FTL methods. Our displacement drive creates a localized folding of space-time. Hexaraxian merely stumbled. A displacement drive. Even the most advanced Concordat vessels used standard warp technology. Displacement theory was considered largely theoretical, with only the ancient and mysterious precursor race having possibly achieved it. That's remarkable, he managed to say. And your cloaking technology. I'm not authorized to discuss that, Chen replied smoothly as they approached the bridge. The doors slid open silently, revealing a command center that hummed with efficient activity. Captain Reese stood from her command chair. Commander Suraction, welcome aboard the Defiance. Hexaraxian performed the formal greeting of his people, all 4 arms moving in the prescribed pattern. Captain Reese, thank you for allowing me aboard. I hope this personal escort will facilitate smoother diplomatic relations as we approach Keldari Prime. Of course, she gestured to a seat that had clearly been adjusted to accommodate his physiology. Please, join me. We have much to discuss before we reach the planet. As Suraction took his seat, he noticed a small holographic display appear beside the captain. It resembled a human female, but was clearly artificial, its form translucent and blue. This is ARIA, our ship's artificial intelligence, Reese explained. "Greetings, Commander Xeraxian." The hologram said, "I've taken the liberty of adjusting the environmental controls in your vicinity to better match Phyrexian preferences." Xeraxian blinked in surprise. He had indeed been feeling slightly uncomfortable with the temperature, but the change was so subtle most species wouldn't have noticed. "Thank you," he said uncertainly. Allies of this sophistication were rare even among the Concordat's most advanced members. The implications were disturbing. If humans had developed this level of technology while under quarantine, what else had they achieved that the Concordat didn't know about? "Commander," Reese said, interrupting his thoughts, "while we journey to Keldari Prime, perhaps you could satisfy my curiosity. Why exactly was Earth placed under quarantine? The official records cite our aggressive tendencies, but there must be more to it." Xeraxian hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Captain, in the Concordat's long history, we've encountered many species. Some, like the Phyrexians or my own Phyrexians, evolved with strong communal bonds and natural tendencies toward cooperation. Others evolved as solitary predators and required centuries of guidance before they were ready to join the galactic community. And humans, where do we fall in this spectrum? Humans are unique. You evolved as social predators with both cooperative and competitive instincts. Your history is marked by both tremendous acts of altruism and horrific atrocities committed against your own kind. The Concordat observed your development for millennia before making the determination that you required additional time to mature as a species." Reese leaned forward, and it had nothing to do with the Proxima incident. Xeraxian's scales tightened involuntarily. How much did they know? "I'm not familiar with that term," he lied. "Really? 53 years ago, a Concordat observation vessel malfunctioned in Earth orbit. Rather than risk discovery, the crew initiated self-destruct. But they miscalculated the blast radius. Fragments rained down over a remote area of what we call Siberia." Xeraxian maintained his composure, but internally he was reeling. This was classified information of the highest order. "Captain, we recovered those fragments, Commander," Reese continued, her voice hardening. "And with them, we discovered we weren't alone in the universe. We learned about the Concordat, about the quarantine, about being labeled as aggressive and dangerous. So we made a decision." "What decision?" Xeraxian asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. "If the galaxy saw us as a threat, we would become strong enough that no one could threaten us. But we would do it out of sight, letting your observers see only what we wanted them to see." The bridge fell silent. The human crew continued their work, but Xeraxian could feel their attention on this conversation. "Are you declaring war on the Concordat, Captain Reese?" he finally asked. Reese's expression softened. "No, Commander. Quite the opposite. We're here because we know the truth about the Harbingers, about what's coming from the galactic rim. And we're here to help, whether the Concordat wants that help or not." Xeraxian felt his world shift beneath him. The Harbingers were the Concordat's most closely guarded secret, an ancient enemy thought long defeated, recently detected returning from the dark space between galaxies. Only the highest levels of Concordat leadership knew of their return. And somehow, these quarantined humans knew too. "How?" he whispered. "Governor Talaxu isn't just a reformer," Reese said grimly. "He's one of the few who believes the old ways won't work against the Harbingers. He reached out to us because he knows the Concordat is too set in its ways to adapt, too proud to admit it needs help, especially from a species it has labeled as dangerous." Before Xeraxian could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the bridge. "Captain," called out a human at one of the monitoring stations. "Multiple ships emerging from hyperspace. Concordat signatures. It's the 7th Fleet." On the main view screen, space seemed to ripple and tear as enormous Concordat warships appeared, their distinctive organic shapes bristling with weapon ports. At the center of the formation was the dreadnought Indomitable Will, flagship of Grand Admiral Zendraxis. "They're earlier than expected," Reese noted calmly. "Commander Xeraxian, it seems your superiors are eager to meet us." Xeraxian stood slowly, his mind racing. Everything he thought he knew was being challenged. The humans' advanced technology, their knowledge of the Harbingers, Governor Talaxu's betrayal. It was too much to process. "Captain Reese," he said formally, "as a representative of the Galactic Concordat, I must advise you to power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Grand Admiral Zendraxis is not known for his patience or diplomacy." Reese stood as well, facing him directly. "And as a representative of Earth, I must decline. We came in peace, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." She turned to her communications officer. "Open a channel to Admiral Zhang." As the bridge crew prepared for potential conflict, Captain Reese fixed Xeraxian with those unsettling golden eyes. "Commander, you have a choice to make. The Concordat has lied to you about humans. What else have they lied about? Think carefully about which side you want to be on when the Harbingers arrive." And as the imposing form of the Concordat dreadnought grew larger on the viewscreen, Xeraxian realized with crystal clarity that the galaxy was about to change forever. Grand Admiral Zendraxis cut an imposing figure on the bridge of the Indomitable Will. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, with iridescent scales that shifted from crimson to gold depending on the light, he embodied the apex evolution of the Vrexian species. Unlike Commander Xeraxian's 4 arms, the Grand Admiral possessed 6, a rare genetic trait among his kind that had helped propel him to the highest military rank in the Concordat. "Report," he demanded, his voice resonating with harmonic undertones that marked Vrexian nobility. High Commander Velux, his second-in-command, stepped forward. "The human vessel remains on course for Keldari Prime, Admiral. Commander Xeraxian is aboard. Their fleet maintains position at the system's edge. 32 ships in total, all running with active weapon systems, but not locked on targets." "And the human commander?" "This, Reese. She's requesting to speak with you, sir." Zendrax's upper lip curled slightly, revealing the edge of a fang. "Put her on screen." The holographic display flickered to life, showing Captain Reese standing on her bridge. Beside her was Commander Xeraxian, looking distinctly uncomfortable. "Grand Admiral Zendraxis," Reese began without preamble, "I am Captain Ilara Reese of the UNS Defiance. We are on a peaceful diplomatic mission to Keldari Prime at the invitation of Governor Talaxu." "Captain Reese," Zendraxis responded, his voice deceptively calm. "You have violated Concordat space. Your species is under quarantine for another 53 cycles. Governor Talaxu has no authority to circumvent the Galactic Council's directives. With respect, Admiral, the quarantine itself violates at least 7 provisions of the Galactic Charter, which you signed before Earth was even aware of your existence. We've come to address this injustice through diplomatic channels." Zendraxis' scales rippled with barely controlled anger. "Commander Xeraxian," he snapped, "return to your vessel immediately. You appear to be operating under some form of duress." Before Xeraxian could respond, Reese spoke. "The commander is here as our guest and escort, Admiral. He's free to leave whenever he wishes." Xeraxian stepped forward. "Admiral, if I may speak freely, the humans have advanced technology far beyond our intelligence estimates. Their ships employ displacement drive technology and sophisticated AI systems. They also claim to know about the Harbingers." A tense silence fell across the Concordat bridge. Officers exchanged nervous glances. The Harbingers were a classified threat. Knowledge of their existence was restricted to the highest echelons of the Concordat leadership. "I see," Zendraxis finally said, his voice dangerously soft. "Captain Reese, it seems you've been in contact with traitors to the Concordat. This changes the nature of our interaction. Does it?" Reese asked calmly. "Or does it simply confirm what you already knew, that your policy of isolation and secrecy is failing? The Harbingers are coming, Admiral. Their advanced scouts have already been detected in the Antares cluster." Zendrax's eyes narrowed. You know nothing of what you speak. 3 months ago, a Concordat research outpost in the Antares cluster went dark. Reese continued relentlessly. The official report claimed a containment breach in their antimatter storage. The truth is that they encountered a Harbinger scout vessel. There were no survivors. The Admiral's scales flushed a deep crimson. How do you know this? He hissed. Governor Tlaxu isn't the only member of the Concordat who believes humanity might be an asset rather than a threat. There are those among your own ranks who recognize that the old ways won't work against an enemy like the Harbingers. Zendraxis turned to his officers. Clear the bridge, he ordered. When they had all left, he returned his attention to the screen. What exactly do you want, human? An end to the quarantine, recognition of Earth as a sovereign power, and a seat at the table when the Concordat plans its defense against the Harbingers. Impossible. The Council would never agree. Then we can speak directly with the Council, Reese suggested. We have evidence they'll find compelling. You will do no such thing, Zendraxis snarled. The Council is not to be disturbed with unverified claims. Caxaraxian stepped forward again. Admiral, with respect, perhaps we should consider the captain's proposal. If what they say about the Harbingers is true. Silence. Zendraxis roared. You've clearly been compromised, Commander. You will return to your vessel immediately and report for psychological evaluation. Reese's expression hardened. The commander stays where he is until our diplomatic mission is complete. Now, are we free to proceed to Keldari Prime, or are you declaring war on humanity? Neither, Zendraxis replied coldly. Your ship will be escorted to Sentinel Station for further investigation. Your fleet will depart Concordat space immediately. This is not negotiable. I'm afraid those terms are unacceptable, Admiral. We came in peace, but we won't be detained. Zendraxis leaned forward. You have 1 hour to comply, Captain. Otherwise, I will take your ship by force. With that, he cut the transmission. Back on the Defiance, Captain Reese turned to her crew. Options. Commander Paddle spoke first. We could make a run for it. The displacement drive would get us to Keldari Prime before they could intercept us, and leave the fleet to face Zendraxis' wrath. Not an option, Reese replied. We could fight, suggested Lieutenant Commander Chen, the tactical officer. Their technology is impressive, but we've analyzed their weapon systems. They rely heavily on energy shields that our phase cannons could penetrate. Against one dreadnought and its support fleet, the casualties would be catastrophic on both sides. Reese shook her head. Syraxian had been silent, watching the humans discuss their options with growing fascination. They weren't acting like cornered animals or warmongers. They were methodically analyzing the situation, seeking a solution that minimized casualties. There is another option, he said suddenly. All eyes turned to him. Contact Governor Tlaxu directly. If he publicly acknowledges inviting you, the Admiral will be forced to allow your diplomatic mission to proceed. At least temporarily. Can we get a message through? Reese asked. Araya, the ship's AI, materialized beside them. I've analyzed Concordat communication protocols. I can bypass standard channels and reach the Governor's private communication array. Do it, Reese ordered. Within moments, the concerned face of Governor Tlaxu appeared on the view screen. He was Nexian, a species known for their empathic abilities and diplomatic skills, with pale blue skin and large expressive eyes. Captain Reese, he said, his voice tinged with concern. I was not expecting you so soon. The Ascended Path had planned for your arrival next week after certain preparations were complete. Governor, we've encountered some resistance. Grand Admiral Zendraxis has ordered us to Sentinel Station for investigation and demanded our fleet leave the system. Tlaxu's expression darkened. Zendraxis. Of course. He's one of the old guard, staunch supporters of the traditional Concordat hierarchy. He would rather see the galaxy fall to the Harbingers than admit humanity might be our salvation. Can you help us, Governor? if you publicly acknowledge inviting us as diplomatic envoys. I'll do better than that, Captain, Tlaxu interrupted. I'll invoke the right of sanctuary under Article 12 of the Galactic Charter. It will force Zendraxis to allow you safe passage to Keldari Prime, where you'll be under my protection. Xeraxian stepped into view. Governor Tlaxu, Commander Xeraxian of Sentinel Station Alpha 7. The right of sanctuary hasn't been invoked in over 1,000 cycles. The Admiral may challenge it. He can try, Tlaxu replied grimly. But even he must respect Concordat law. I'll make the declaration immediately. As the transmission ended, Reese turned to Xeraxian. Thank you, Commander. That was unexpected support. Xeraxian looked uncomfortable. I serve the Concordat, Captain. But I serve its principles, not individuals like Zendraxis. If the Harbingers truly are returning, and if Governor Tlaxu believes humanity can help us fight them, then protocol must give way to survival. Sir, interrupted Lieutenant Park from the communication station. We're receiving a system-wide broadcast from Keldari Prime. On the main view screen, Governor Tlaxu appeared, dressed in formal Concordat robes of office. Citizens of the Keldari system and representatives of the Galactic Concordat, I, Governor Tlaxu, invoke the right of sanctuary for the human diplomatic vessel UNS Defiance and its crew. By the authority vested in me by the Galactic Council, I declare these humans to be under my protection and grant them safe passage to Keldari Prime for diplomatic discussions. Any interference with their vessel is a direct violation of the Galactic Charter and will be reported to the Council. The bridge crew of the Defiance erupted in subdued cheers. Xeraxian allowed himself a small smile. The governor's declaration had just checkmated Zendraxis, at least temporarily. Captain, Araya announced, the indomitable will is hailing us. On screen, Reese ordered, her posture straightening. Zendraxis appeared, his scales now a deep, dangerous purple. This changes nothing, human. The governor has exceeded his authority. When you reach Keldari Prime, my forces will be waiting. The right of sanctuary is absolute. Admiral, Reese replied calmly. It can only be overruled by a full council vote. Are you prepared to explain to the council why you're so determined to prevent a diplomatic mission? Especially when that explanation might reveal the truth about the Harbingers to council members who haven't been informed. Zendraxis' eyes narrowed to slits. This isn't over. Proceed to Keldari Prime. My ships will escort you, to ensure your safety, of course. The transmission cut abruptly. He's planning something, Xeraxian warned. Zendraxis doesn't retreat, he regroups. Araya, alert the fleet, Reese ordered. Tell Admiral Zhang to maintain position, but be ready for anything. Now, helm, set course for Keldari Prime, full speed. The capital city of Keldari Prime sprawled across a vast plateau, its gleaming spires and curved architecture a testament to Concordat aesthetic principles. The Defiance settled onto a landing pad outside the governor's palace, its dark hull contrasting sharply with the pearl-white structures surrounding it. Captain Reese led a small delegation down the ramp. Commander Patel, Lieutenant Commander Chen, and Dr. Okafor, their chief medical officer. Xeraxian walked beside them, still officially serving as their escort, but now feeling increasingly like something between a hostage and a collaborator. Governor Tlaxu waited at the bottom of the ramp with a small honor guard. He performed the traditional Nexian greeting, a complex gesture involving all 4 fingers of both hands pressed against his chest. Captain Reese, welcome to Keldari Prime. The ascended path honors your courage in coming here. Reese returned the gesture with surprising accuracy. Governor Tlaxu, we thank you for your protection. Earth values your friendship. The formalities complete, they moved inside the palace, away from prying eyes and potential surveillance. In a secure chamber deep within the structure, Tlaxu finally spoke freely. I apologize for the complications with your arrival, Captain. We had planned more carefully for next week, when Admiral Zendraxis would have been recalled to Concordat Prime for the annual military review. "It's our fault," Reese admitted. "Our intelligence suggested this was an optimal window and Sentinel Station would be undergoing routine maintenance. The maintenance was rescheduled," Phyrexian explained. "A directive from Concordat High Command 3 days ago. I thought nothing of it at the time, but now it seems someone may have suspected our plans." Tlaxu finished. "The old guard has spies everywhere. We must move quickly before Zendraxis can mobilize further opposition." He activated a holographic display in the center of the room. It showed a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy, with certain regions highlighted in red. "These are confirmed Harbinger sightings over the past 2 years," Tlaxu explained. "Official Concordat records list them as anomalous energy signatures or space-time disturbances. But the pattern is clear. They're probing our defenses, learning our response protocols." "How did you learn about the Harbingers?" Phyrexian asked Reese. "Even within the Concordat, knowledge of their existence is highly classified." Reese exchanged glances with her officers before answering. 27 years ago, an Earth deep space probe detected an unusual signal from the direction of the Antares cluster. Our scientists determined it wasn't natural. It contained mathematical sequences too precise to be random.